Hello students, we shall now prove the next property under the topic arithmetic operations on intervals. The next property is 0 is an element of a minus a. So first let us consider a minus a, and so that will be equal to, we know that the a is the interval a1 comma a2 minus again a is the interval a1 comma a2. By using the subtraction rule we obtain this to be equal to closed interval, we have to subtract a1 minus a2 first. So it will be a1 minus a2 comma a2 minus a1. So a2 minus a1. This is by the subtraction rule. So now this can be further written as, now let us take this as, we can take the negative sign outside, and so this will be negative a2 minus a1 comma a2 minus a1. Now if suppose we take a to be a2 minus a1, we get this to be equal to closed interval negative a comma a, because we have taken a2 minus a1 to be a. So we can write a instead of this. So negative a comma a. Now definitely if you have negative a and positive a here, we will be having 0 into within this interval. So therefore 0 is an element of a minus a. So first property we have proved. So next we have to prove that 1 is an element of a comma a, for which we have to consider a divided by, 1 is an element of a divided by a. So this is what we have to prove. So to prove this, so we shall consider a divided by a. So that will be equal to, now we know that a is the interval a1 comma a2. So now a divided by a will be equal to, as per the definition, it will be equal to minimum of. So first it will be a1 by a1 comma a1 by a2 comma a2 by a1 comma a2 by a2 comma maximum of the same values. If you turn the definitions of if you look out for the division property, you will understand how I have written this, which we have done in our previous videos. So kindly go through it. So this is how we get here. Now this these two like the repeating terms can be written once. Now a1 divided by a1 will be 1 comma a1 by a2 comma a2 by a1 comma, and this is 1 comma maximum of, these two gets cancelled, so 1 a1 by a2 a2 by a1 comma 1. So now here we can have three cases, that is, the first case will be when a1 is lesser than a2, how will it be? The second case will be when a2 is lesser than a1, we will consider, and the next case will be when a1 is equal to a2. So the first case we will consider, so case 1, so first case is if a1 is lesser than a2. So from this we can say that a1 divided by a2 is lesser than a2 divided by a2 is 1. So a1 divided by a2 is 1, is lesser than 1. So if this is lesser than 1, then its reciprocal a2 by a1 will be definitely greater than 1, because the reciprocal of this, when we take the reciprocal, the sign gets changed. So a2 by a1 will be greater than 1. So now when we substitute here, what do we get? So a divided by a will be equal to, first we have taken a1 to be lesser than a2, which means that a1 divided by a2 is lesser than 1 and this is greater than 1. So definitely this will be the minimum of all the four values. So we will get it as a1 divided by a2 comma the maximum of all these four values will be this, because this is greater than 1 and these two values are 1 and this is lesser than 1. So out of these four values the maximum value is this. So we will get a2 by a1. So So now we can see that this is the reciprocal of this, and definitely if we have a1 by a2 here, then some a2 by a1 will be somewhere here, and we observe that a1 by a2 is lesser than 1 and a2 by a1 is greater than 1, and definitely 1 belongs to this interval. So therefore 1 is an element of a by a. Now the next case we will take as case 2, where a1 will be equal to a2. So if a1 is equal to a2, then it will be the same, that is a1 is equal to a2 means all these terms will get cancelled. Okay, so therefore a by a will be equal to minimum of all the terms will be 1, because a1 is equal to a2 means it will get cancelled and it will become 1. So minimum of 1 is 1 only. So the interval will be 1 comma 1. So obviously 1 is an element of a by a in this case. So case 2 is also verified. Now case 3 we have, where here we have taken a1 to be lesser than a2, and so now we will take a1 to be greater than a2. So from this we can say that a2 is lesser than a1. So we obtain from this as a2 by a1 to be lesser than 1 and its reciprocal a1 by a2 to be greater than 1. And so here it will be absolutely the same, only the change will be like this. So it will be a by a will be, so if you simplify that, you will get a by a to be equal to a2 by a1 in this case, and then a1 by a2. So this is the reciprocal of this, and so obviously here you have a2 by a1 and here you have a1 by a2, and we know that 1 is greater than this value. Okay, so the greater than this value, and 1 is lesser than this value. So therefore it lies into this interval, and hence 1 is an element of a by a in this case also. So this is how we have proved that 0 is an element of a minus a and 1 is an element of a by a. Hope you have understood this proof. Thank you.